welcome to part 3 of my Holiday Friday card series for 2018. Today I'm going to be making some Christmas cards using the Little Pickup stamp and die set from Honeybee Stamps. And to go along with that, I'm going to be using the Sending You Sentiments stamp set, which is a really nice large stamp set with a bunch of different buildable sentiments that you can use with that. I'm going to be doing some watercoloring today, so I'm going to be stamping some pickup trucks on some Canson XL watercolor paper. I'll be using my VersaFine Black Onyx ink and my Recollections Fine Detail Clear Embossing Powder. I'm using a stamping tool, which is helping a lot because I'm making multiples of this card. I think I made six of this card in 2 different design versions. So you'll see kind of both as we're working on it here. Excuse me. I have my heat tool just off camera. And I tend to not show too much actual heating up embossing. It just wastes time. So here we are. I have my 6 images all stamped out and watercolored, and I'm going to do just a little bit more stamping to go along with my card design. I want to stamp out that solid Christmas tree image that I'm going to end up putting in the back of the pickup truck, so I'm going to have to stamp that 6 times. And I'm just going to put it right on the watercolor paper because I have a lot of empty space and there's plenty of room. I'm using some Distress Oxide ink in the Forest Moss, nice dark green color. I don't have a ton of inks available to me, so I just kind of grabbed the one that I thought would work best. So my watercoloring, I'm going to be watercoloring with Distress Oxide inks, and I'm going to pull in a couple of Tombow markers as well. So I have my little paintbrush, my Distress sprayer, a cup of clean water. I'm going to press this red brick Distress Oxide directly onto my craft area here. I'm going to spritz it with a little bit of water and mix it up, and I'm just going to use that to paint with. There's no real secret to this. I'm not a very good painter, not a very good watercolorist, but I do like the look of watercoloring, and I really love Distress Oxide coloring. What works for me with images like this one is to just paint each panel separately. So each one dries with a slightly different concentration of color, kind of makes it look like it was shaded intentionally. That's kind of the look that I'm going for. I did test off screen. I tested a couple of other different colors for the red, and this one I thought dried the best. I'm kind of going for an old beat up red pickup truck. And I liked the way that this dried. The people that these holiday cards are intended for will appreciate this image. They're intended for a couple of my aunts and uncles on my mother's side. It looks like my grandfather's truck. There's a rhyme or reason to things. So I need some gray, so I'm going to actually use my black soot Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going to water it down a lot so that it actually comes out a little bit gray. I ended up liking the look of using the black soot for gray instead of the gray for gray. The hickory smoke, I think it's called. I like the way that the black soot looked, but I did get a couple of areas where it was slightly too black, and I just sort of soaked that back up with my paper towel there. So I'm just coming in with the paintbrush and making kind of the rest of the details on the truck itself gray. And then when this is dry, I'll come back with some Tombow markers and put a little bit more detail in there, but there we go. Gonna set it aside to dry naturally. I have a yellow Tombow marker. I'm just coloring in the lights. It's just a tiny little spot. And then I have a little light blue. I'm gonna frost the windows with it. And then I've got a black Tombow, and I'm just blackening up a couple of the little details. And I take a tiny, tiny little bit of water, and I'm quite clumsy, a tiny little bit of water and kind of just smooth out and the light blue that I tinted the windows with. And then that's it. And I just colored all of the images like that. I'm going to take a white gel pen to put a couple of little accents on the truck, nothing fancy. And I go through and do all of those, and then it is time to die cut, and I'll die cut the trees out at the same time. Using my Cuttlebug here. I'm using two B plates, and I have a Cuttlebug magnetic plate under there as well, which I'm not super thrilled with. So I use washi tape too. And my handle coming off my Cuttlebug there. It's long lost the screw. Excuse me, the screw that holds it in, and my husband doesn't have a screw to replace it, so the handle will just fall off when it feels like it. They're so cute, these little die cuts. Here we go, all my little die cuts in my trees. I like to build cards when I'm mass producing them in assembly style. So I will move on to the next component to my cards and kind of set that aside, and I'll build it all at the same time. I have this hot cocoa 12 by 12 paper pad made by American Crafts that I got at a Tuesday morning trip a long time ago. And I've pulled out a variety of papers that I like that I'm going to cut down to build my cards out of. I've mentioned that I do two different styles or two different colorways, I guess, of this card design. So I've cut down the buffalo check paper and the plaid paper, and then a little black piece for those. And I'm keeping the scraps that I used, that craft paper with the snowflake on it. I'm keeping the scraps because I'm actually going to heat emboss a sentiment directly on that as well. I figured I'd use up every last smidgen of the paper that I could. I'm grabbing the Sending You sentiment from the Sending You sentiment set, and I'm going to layer that out on that scrap piece of craft paper. I'm just grabbing a tea ruler here. It's a scripty font, so it's not super even to begin with. I just wanted to make sure that I had approximately, they were going approximately in a straight line. Nothing fancy. So I'm going to pull out my VersaFine again, and I'm going to heat emboss over this again with the the clear embossing powder. I probably could have skipped embossing it, but I was too lazy to wait for the ink to dry, so I figured I might as well just emboss over it. And it'll give it a nice little bit of shine. So there was enough scrap left over to do 3 sentiments this way. So that's what I did, and it worked out perfectly because I had 6 cards, so I just did 3 kind of each design. So I trimmed off some of the sentiment here, and I didn't like the way that it looked squared off, so I decided I would fussy cut the sentiment, and I really liked the way that that looked, especially on the final card, which you will see coming up. I'm using my Do Crafts non-stick scissors. They're not great. So I cut all 3 of those out. So for the other 3 cards, I'm going to white heat emboss on that buffalo check paper. I'm going to white heat emboss the Sending You on that one. I'm using my Wow fine white detailed embossing powder. Gosh, that bottle just lasts forever, doesn't it? There we go. That's all 3 of them set aside. Now, because I'm going to use a black card base, I want to make sure that I have a panel on the inside of each card, and that's what those craft paper with the snowflakes was for, so that I could adhere those to the inside of the card so I could write my sentiments in there by hand. So I'm going to stamp a little bit more of a sentiment on the inside, and I ended up doing loads of holiday greetings. So the whole card together will say, Sending You loads of holiday greetings. I thought that was cute. And I'm putting this at an angle just because it was fun. And I'm going to heat emboss over this as well with the clear embossing powder. And more VersaFine. All just stages. That's how I process all of my batch cards, is I do all of one thing, then all of the next thing, and all the next thing, and before you know it, you have all of the different components that are complete, and they're all in little piles, and then you can just put them all together. I send well over 100 Christmas cards every year, and I do like a dozen different styles of cards every year. And this is just how I process them all. So here are my little piles of everything that's all cut and ready to go and ready to build onto my card base. So I have some 110-pound Recollections black cardstock that I already cut into top folding A2 note cards and scored them and folded them down. I'm going to adhere the back piece. And I think I do skip over a lot of this taping down of the pieces. There we go. Or applying the tape parts anyway. Pretty boring. So I'm going to apply that piece, and then I'm going to put that black paper that has the little white Christmas trees on it on top of that. I'm going to try to center it as best as I can and put that towards the bottom of the card so that it doesn't cover up any of the sending you sentiment. I'm just trying to take my time and do it right. Yeah, we're going to assemble a truck. I'm going to put a couple of dabs of glue on there. And I'll show building this part in its entirety, but I think I skip over the other ones. I just put a couple of dabs of glue towards the bottom. I'm flipping this image over. I'm going to put a little piece of double-sided tape just covering the back of the Christmas tree and the truck to kind of just one more thing to hold it together. And I'm just going to load this up with glue around that sticky tape and then stick that onto my card. And there we go. And that is the red with black design. I'm going to stick the panel on the inside. Same thing, just some double-sided tape. Line that up as best as I can. I'm just eyeballing it. And there we go. That is the one design with the one pattern paper. And then the next, more or less the same thing, just slightly different positioning. I have that plaid paper. I'm going to put that down on the card base. Then I have that black paper with the little snowflakes. That's going to go as centered as best as I can across the front. Then I will assemble another truck with the tree and place that onto the black. And then I'm going to ink up the back of the sentiments that I fussy cut out. I'm going to place that at an angle across the top of the card. Just I liked during my testing off camera, I just liked the way that that looked better. And there we go. There's the second card. I'm just going to put the, or actually I already did, I guess, put the panel on the inside. And those are the two kind of designs that I have. For the pickup truck card. I just love this paper. I'm in love with it. I kept it out, so I'm going to do some more projects with it. So this is after I've done them all. A couple of finishing touches. I'm going to put my stamp on the back of the cards, but because it's a black card base, my regular ink isn't going to work. So I'm using my Hero Arts Unicorn White ink cube. And I'm going to use that to stamp my stamp on the back, which works perfectly. It does dry a little bit later than that, but it works perfectly. And then as a last finishing touch, we saw on that stamp set, it has the little Christmas gifts option that you could use to stamp in the truck. I'm going to just stamp that on the envelopes. I've got some A2 sized craft envelopes here that I'm going to use to coordinate with these cards when I send them. And I'm just going to stamp the gifts right on it in the bottom corner there. And I'm going to use that same fired brick red ink that I used to watercolor with. And then that's it. I had a lot of fun with these cards. These papers in particular are just yummy. I had a lot of fun working with them. I hope that you have enjoyed and that you've found some inspiration here with me. I think that my family is going to enjoy these. Very much like my grandfather's truck. Okay, again, that is the little pickup stamp and die set from Honeybee Stamps, and the Sending You Sentiment stamps, and I'll have products and things linked down below. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye.